languages enumerated in the Constitution of India. The second meeting of the General Council of the Academy laid down the language policy and made it clear that the Academy would be concerned not only with the languages mentioned in the Constitution, but also with other Indian languages. Though the founding fathers of the Academy had thus envisaged a wide scope, Konkani was unfortunately left out. It was only after a coordinated and well-orchestrated movement that Konkani was recognized in 1975. It is rather unfortunate that an Indian language which was structurally independent, culturally rich, and traditionally sound was left out for almost a decade even after independence. Despite the fact that it had a continuous literary tradition and a history of so many centuries, and the fact that it was spoken by a sufficiently large number of people. In South India, there is a general feeling among some sections of the society to refrain from asserting the identity of their own language. When the British take pride in telling the world that theirs is Great Britain, the British always say about their country that theirs is Great Britain, not a small country. They say Great Britain. But we in Kerala or in Goa remain content in saying that ours is a small language and a small state. Irrespective of the size of the community and the people speaking this language, we have a rich heritage and great literature that are second to none. We have to tell the world that ours is a great language and a great land. You have been consistently fighting for the noble cause of your language and defending the linguistic ethos of your region in a big way, and I salute all of you for taking this bold stand. This conference is being held in Ernakulam, where Konkani is widely spoken. You may be aware that in Kerala, Konkani occupies third rank in the order of the languages spoken here, and is the second most important language in the district of Ernakulam. In the western coastal area, Konkani figures as a notable language. Here the state has recognized Konkani as a minority language for study in primary schools. And the syllabi in Konkani in primary schools are approved and published in the Kerala State Gazette. The area stations of Kerala started broadcasting Konkani features long back, but I am not sure whether they still continue with that practice or not. If they have dropped it, we have to fight for that also. We have to get them to start broadcasting again. So the city is the right venue. This city of Kochi is the right venue outside Goa for a literary festival of this magnitude. Transcending the barriers of language, Konkani spreads, and it is no longer a language confined to a locale which lies between the sea and the Kutch. Your decision to hold the literary festival in Kerala is perfectly in the fitness of things, as both Kerala and Goa share many things in common. Evergreen tropical forests, massive plantations of coconut trees, the light blue seashores, lush green hills, hills apparelled in green grass and herbal scrub. The paddy fields represent a culture common to both. Malayalam, our mother tongue, is a great classical language that has produced some of the most valued and lasting pieces of literature. As many of you may be translated, was Malayalam. It was done in the 14th century by Niranatha Madhava Panikar, who is one among the triumvirates known as the Niranam poets, as they all had settled at Niranam, the very place where I was born. The first recipient of Jnanpith too was a Malayali, G. Shankarakurup, who lived and died in this city. You may be aware that Konkani Ramayana traditions exist in Kerala with specific local forms like Gode Ramayana of Kochi, being a ritualistic chant performed annually. This tradition is distinct from other Konkani versions like the 16th century prose Ramayana Chokanyu or modern translations. The regional adaptations of the epic through folk songs and rituals flourish here. The presence of these local forms is due to the historical migration of Konkani speakers to Kerala starting in the 13th century. Additionally, K. Ananda Bhatt, a Kochi resident, translated the Ramacharita into Konkani. The Konkani community in Kochi has long maintained its cultural identity while totally getting immersed itself in the mainstream cultural life of Malayalam. Now let us come to these literary festivals. Literary festivals serve as platforms of polemics. They stimulate the growth of literature, foster quality, bring about the hitherto unexplored areas of criticism and appreciation, and ensure the widespread diffusion of ideas, a task that is not easy to accomplish. It is rather unfortunate that we know very little about who writes what in our neighboring states. Even though we are well aware of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Lorca, Barth, or Orhan Pamuk, we are totally in the dark as to what trends prevail in our neighboring languages and literatures, even though we are in a position to write volumes after volumes on the postmodern trends or even on the post-truth period elsewhere. When attending workshops on translation, one is often confronted with the questions that leave one puzzled about the status of translators. Are you an original writer or merely a translator? Why do you squander your time and energy translating translators' roles within the literary and academic spheres are prevalent? And it is only by knocking down these popular misconceptions that we can usher in an era that values and recognizes translators as creative writers. Though Robert Frost remarked that poetry is what gets lost in translation, there is a comforting counterpoint: what survives translation is poetry. Despite the inherent academic and literary limitations, we still prefer to have translated works, as no one can master all the world's languages. Also, while accepting that specific nuances may be lost, we continue to relish translations as they serve as primary means of understanding the ways in which people worldwide live their lives. To return to the initial point, though translation is an essential means of cultural exchange and communication, translators often do not receive the recognition they deserve. Despite the emergence of translation studies as an academic discipline in many universities, translators still need to be considered for their creative capacities. Why is it so? The disparity clearly stems from the perception that translation is inferior to original writing. However, it is important to note that translators surpass original writers as societal hopes, aspirations, pleasures, and sufferings depicted in a literary work in one language can be communicated to the readers of other languages only through translation. Translators also must possess the literary and linguistic skills to express the beauty and the rhythm of the source text in the translated version. Rather than settling for approximations, a good translator must endeavor to find ways that communicate the source text devices. Since each language has its own linguistic and literary norms, it is ensure the oneness of time and thought. What I have to tell you is that we should not stop this here. Frequently we should meet and an atmosphere should be created in which we ensure that the interest of transcends the barriers of language and the boundaries of languages. We should not forget the fact that each language has the interest of truly reflect the subtle immense writers of all times. Every writer does this, stretching the hands up towards the sky. Every writer of every land laments. Though I preach all the values of Dharma, nobody is inclined to listen to it. What a tragedy. Both Artha and Kama derive from the practice of Dharma. Yet nobody realizes this and nobody practices Dharma in their lives.